Well, how you doing, YouTubers? Uncle Dave with DEECEE's Adventures. I'm coming at you with a video from my hunting camp. It's fall and the leaves are falling and it's pretty chilly out there. I wanted to make a video today about how to make my favorite chaga recipe. So I got the water on the stove right now. Just put some hardwood on there, get it nice and hot, and I'll set you guys up on a different shot so I can show you what it is I put in my chaga tea when I'm boiling it. Alright, here we go, and you have to excuse any wind sound. The wind's really cranking here today, but I have a cover on the mic, so it shouldn't be that bad. Here's what I put in my chaga, and this is what I actually boil in the pot. I boil it for probably 15 or 20 minutes, but we'll talk about that once the water is boiling. As far as processing things too, this is a jar of chaga that I collected last November, so it's been a full year. And here's actually some dried wintergreen, but I never use it dried. It is nice probably to keep it dry so you can quick steep it, but I don't know, it didn't dry out very well. And I don't usually use dry, I usually use fresh wintergreen. So this is wintergreen, and this is, I only take probably 2 clusters worth of white pine. And the way you can tell it's white pine is it has a cluster of 5 needles. So if it has a cluster of 5 needles, it's a white pine. It's high in vitamin C, and you don't want a lot of it. You want a very little bit, just so you get a little hint of mint in the tea. I like that, but not enough that you can really even taste it. And it does have extraordinarily large amounts of vitamin C in it. So in general, what I do when I'm processing this down is the needles I'll keep just like that whole. This is chaga that I collected on the Camping with Friends video that we did. And this has a little bit of hollowing, which I don't know what that is. I think that's from the mushroom living its full life and then dying off. You get these like little hollow pockets in the chaga. I'm not really sure what that is. And if you don't know what chaga is right now, I recommend you go and start researching some videos right now here on YouTube about chaga, because it's a pretty amazing tea, and it has a lot of medical benefits, and I actually enjoy the taste of it a great deal, and I can use it as a substitute for coffee for weeks at a time with no problem. So I usually chop it up at least a lot finer than that even. Put this off to the side, but it's really hard. It's really hard. So sometimes chopping it up, it flicks all over the place. But I've gotten pretty good at just putting a little pressure and it doesn't really go anywhere. And it doesn't have to be chopped up too fine depending on how many times you want to boil it. Because you can boil it multiple times, not just once. You can get some pretty good tea out of it for 2 or 3 boils, usually. It has a lot of cancer fighting elements in it. That's why a lot of people are drinking this stuff nowadays, and it's pretty important to have a lot of these antioxidants in your system. So blueberries and chaga are 2 things that I have easily, readily available for free. So I try to use them as much as possible. But I also have the 2 different trees. This is the stuff I said that I harvested last November, and I harvested this just 2 months ago. And I think it's a good idea to mix the 2 together when I boil the tea too. As many different trees as you can get, because some trees have more medical benefits than others, and you don't really know which one's which. So I like to mix my chaga, a bunch of it. So I'm going to process some more of this down into crumbs like this, and then the wintergreen. I always like using fresh wintergreen. I suppose I could try some of that dried stuff to see how it is, because I mean I've seen dried wintergreen in herb aisles in stores, but I like taking the wintergreen and I slice it up into ribbons, and this fresh wintergreen is so oily that you'll actually see after boiling some of the wintergreen oil surface on the boiling water if you put enough wintergreen in it. But I think the wintergreen and chaga together, just the two of them, with a spoonful of sugar, is one of the best teas I've ever had. I really enjoy it. And that's what we're going to have today. This is my favorite chaga recipe right here. So I'm going to finish ribbiting. I'm going to finish cutting this up into ribbons and processing another large pile of chaga here, and I'll bring you guys back when I'm done processing it. Alright, excellent. That should make some really proper chaga tea in about... I like it really dark and pretty heavy, and it will probably take 15 to 20 minutes to get it where I want it with that right there. And you can probably get 3 runs out of it too. I'll boil it 3 times before discarding it, at least. Sometimes more. To the boiling water. Alright, the water's just about boiling. You can pretty much start steeping everything as soon as the water's warm. And if you grind this chaga up in a grinder, you can also just steep it in like a tea ball or something. But with chunks like this, we're going to boil it for a while. Put them right in. And the wintergreen. Alright. Should be pretty good. Should be boiling in less than a minute. You can see it's already starting to boil there. And I'm going to let it boil for probably, I don't know, I'd say 15 minutes. I'll bring you guys back. My light's acting up. Alright, so there we are. 15 minutes of boiling. It is nice and hot. Take a look. What the leaves look like. Because they soak up the chaga and a lot of the oils are released. I mean, you can see a couple little bubbles of oil on the top of the chaga, and that's from the wintergreen. But it's pretty dark. This is how dark I like it, and I'll definitely be able to get 3 boils out of this. I don't want the mason jar to crack on me, so I'm kind of letting it cool down a little. But I also warm the mason jar up by the fire too. So I think it's good. It's 40 degrees out, so if you put boiling tea into a 40-degree mason jar, it's going to break on you. This is my tea infusing ball. This is what I use on the trail. It's usually a good idea to filter this stuff a little bit. Probably good. Put the cover on this, try to keep it hot a little bit longer. I'm actually going to take this and put it back on the stove in a minute here. And I'll add a little more water to it and let it boil up more. The only thing left is 2 spoonfuls of sugar. And this tea right here is pretty darn good. It's a really good mix, and anybody who likes tea, I think will definitely enjoy this recipe right here. It's really good if you put some of that vanilla creamer, that really sugary vanilla creamer that's awful that people put in their coffee. Well, if you put it in this particular recipe, it makes this taste like vanilla cake. Honest to God, everybody who's tried it says it tastes exactly like vanilla cake. Any of those vanilla creamers will do it. Well, that's some darn good tea right there. The chaga and the wintergreen mix kind of makes the back of your throat tingle. It's nice. You can sit down by the river, enjoy a cup of tea, and as always, Uncle Dave with DEECEE's Adventures. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next video.